Okay, so let's talk about children. Children is probably it's the number one difficulty in dealing with small groups is what do we do with children? And so there's really three categories of ways to deal with them. The first category is babysitting. The second category is integration. And then the third category would be rhythms. So let me talk about what I mean by those. And I'm going to try to do this quickly. There's obviously nuances and little adjustments and tweaks that can be made to all of them. And you can kind of customize an idea for your group that works for your group. Before I jump into those, I will say this. We will do a separate video on safety. It is important that the children are safe. And we'll talk about that in another video. So this video is particular for how to think through what to do with the children during small groups. Okay, so the first category is babysitting. A few different options here. You have babysitting off-site, babysitting everybody, kind of on their own. Everybody fends for themselves babysitting, or you have group paying for babysitting. So let me explain those. Let's start with the everybody fending for themselves. It could be you decide that, hey, with our growth group, all y'all just take care of your own babysitting. We're not going to have kids here, younger than say 5th grade. And so, if you need a babysitter, you get a babysitter, and that's just how you do it. So basically a family comes to growth group and they've paid for babysitting and left their kids at home. That's an option. That's not an ideal option. Maybe if you have family that's willing to stay by, maybe grandparents could do that. That might be viable, but otherwise it could be potentially pricey and not the most, it could be really helpful for the group, but it might be more pressure and difficult on the individual families, okay? Then there's babysitting in the sense that the whole group rotates babysitting. So somebody, maybe there's a couple in the group that babysit the first week. And so everybody brings their kids to that couple's house, drops their kids off, then they go to their group. Or it could be that it's actually at the house where everybody brings their kids and that couple stays with all the kids down in the basement or out in the backyard or upstairs, separate from everybody else, and they do the babysitting that way. But either way, that's the group kind of handling the babysitting and watching the kids, and they rotate through during the month so that, not one family is always doing the babysitting. The third option is that the group actually compiles money together and says, hey, we're going to pay for babysitting for the group. And so they, it's cheaper that way if everybody pitches in a little bit of money together rather than every individual family paying for it. And so again, everybody drops their kids off at X location. We have babysitting there, and then they come to the group. So those are the babysitting options. Integration options. This is where you let your children jump into the growth group with you. Now, obviously, 4th grade and up, really, I would say they can participate with you. They can be part of the discussion. They can interact. But if you have younger kids than that, it becomes a little more difficult. And so I would recommend that you could possibly have your children bring, if they have like a Kindle that they like to read or they like to play games on, they could even do that sitting next to you. So you've got, a child, a 4-year-old child who's got little headphones on and their Kindle, and they're sitting by your feet and they're playing a game. They would love that. That's game time for them. But then you're able to keep an eye on them and they're sitting right there next to you and they're not interfering with the discussion. It could be that you get a movie that you want your kids to watch or that everybody's okay with their kids watching. And so it's movie time. So that's like their movie time and they get to go watch a movie during growth group time, when they're younger and they enjoy that. The kids are entertained in one sense and the parents are able to have some discussion time. That's an option as well. It could be that you have someone who's willing to kind of lead game time or lead kind of like a children's group feel to it. And so you have, again, you can rotate through parents, but parents are doing some type of like children's fun time with the kids, trying to incorporate the Bible, trying to incorporate truth as opposed to just entertaining them. But then it kind of feels a little bit like a Sunday school feel. But that might be difficult, but that's an option as well. So different options there for integrating. It could be that you've got a couple rooms set aside for nap times because you got real young kids and they need naps. Again, you're going to have to customize this for your group and kind of figure out what works for you. The third option is the rhythms option. And that is rather than expecting all of your families to come with all their kids every time, you have different rhythms where one week maybe everybody does come together, but it's more fellowship. It's not so much like personal study, conversation, and prayer time. It's more just fun hanging out, the families interacting. Then you have the next week is all the men come together, and then the next week all the women come together. So there's different ways to do it where you can leave, half the group stays at home with the kids, and the other half is able to meet. That would be some type of rhythms where you're able to handle the children via rhythms.